So, hello, and thank you for joining this webinar, which is the latest of our series of online training courses that we've produced from the IEA, where we focused on some of the key aspects of energy efficiency policy. These training courses have their provenance in our face-to-face training, where we've worked with more than 2,500 people from around the world to work on a common language for energy efficiency policy so that we can all share experiences and help be more effective by working together. We can't reach everybody, of course, with the face-to-face training. So we're talking about very important topics which are common to all, that touch everybody's lives. We produce one of these online training courses. So that's what we're here to talk about today. Of course, appliance policy is one of the most effective parts of our energy efficiency policy toolkit, and where we've seen programs that have existed for the last 20 or 30 years, countries and jurisdictions are saving more than 15% of their electricity consumption compared with had they not had these programs. But they have complexities, they have various elements that need to come together, and they have to be worked on over years, they have to be updated. So one of the things we want to introduce you to today is that process of what some of the major successful programs have looked like and why they've succeeded. So we have, as well as presentations from the IEA, we have presentations from Appliance Energy Efficiency Policy champions from the European Union, from China, from Sub-Saharan Africa, and also from CLASP, who will be featuring their experience around the world and with a bit of a spotlight on India. So I will stop there for the time being and hand over to Clara, if I may.
Thank you, Mel, and welcome all to this launch of the Appliance Energy Efficiency Policy webinar. As Mel mentioned, today we're here to present the Appliance Energy Efficiency Policy online training we've developed. Next slide, please. This training is the last of the IEA's online training. We have a number of them, one on fundamentals of statistics, essentials of policy making, buildings and smart cities, and the Appliance Energy Efficiency Policy one is our last development, and it is the kind of consolidation of content, insights, case studies, and understandings that have been compiled for decades in our understanding. So we're very happy to be able to share all of that in a kind of online, interactive, self-paced way. Here you have the link to the webinar, but I'll be sharing the link to enroll in the webinar in the upcoming slides. Next slide, please. The course aims to prepare participants to advance in energy efficiency policies for appliances and equipment. It does this by explaining how policies can reduce energy use, but also by introducing the principles of how to design and implement energy efficiency in what we have coined as at the IEA as the Energy Efficiency Policy Package, which is a package that integrates regulation, information, and incentives to drive energy efficiency towards higher levels in the most effective way. The primary target of this training is policymakers, along with other stakeholders involved in the design and implementation of appliance energy efficiency policy, and of course also open to any other concerned stakeholder or citizen that is interested in the topic. The course consists on 7 modules. The first module is on the introduction of appliance energy efficiency policy, followed by the regulation, a deep dive into regulation, be it minimum energy performance standards, followed by information through a deep dive into the energy labels, incentives and industry transformation, and also an overview in module 5 on data needs and data collection methods to really understand the market and make sure that all the progress that's being done in the policy landscape is being properly monitored and improved with time, as well as an introduction to compliance in module 6, followed by introduction to evaluation. Now, all these modules are then wrapped up by a final assignment, as well as in each of the modules, there is a mandatory evaluation. We like to call it activity, where the participants must perform this evaluation to complete the module. Upon the completion of these evaluations, the participant will have a certificate of completion of the modules. Now, here's the link in this slide, and we will share that in the chat as well, to sign up to the online course. And we really encourage you to do so, as it's something, as I mentioned, it is self-paced, it is interactive, it is full of exercises, and it's fun, basically, while really having a deep dive understanding of appliance energy efficiency policies, design and implementation tactics. Now, before we move on to the presentations and the panel discussion, we wanted to bring to your attention the performance framework, which was developed by the SEAD initiative, and it serves as a visual representation of ongoing efforts to enhance energy efficiency in specific products, as it can be visualized. Within the ladder, each rung outlines the policy performance criteria, including MEPs, as well as label thresholds, for instance, could be also included for both categorical and endorsement label. These performance ladder also outline the potential future aspirational targets, as you will see in the upcoming example. And the ultimate objective also of this ladder is could be to visualize a harmonization of various policy tools, ensuring coordinated efforts and allowing for periodic revisions of the efficiency levels as needed as well. Now, moving on to a specific example, an illustration of the ladder approaches provided in this slide, where we showcase how countries in the Latin America region can work towards meeting the goals to the product efficiency call to action, which seeks to double the efficiency by 2030 of selected products, in this case, industrial motors. And as you can see in this figure, it is proposed that by 2030, all countries, including Chile, achieve IE4, which is the super premium efficiency level for motors, emphasizing the replacement at all levels, which is crucial also to avoid the use of second-hand inefficient motors. While performance requirements can initially be set at the single level, as you can see in the 2025 suggested level, adopting a phased approach that can be visualized in this performance ladder for MEPs, with increased levels over time of energy efficiency, can really deliver a greater efficiency performance. This multi-level strategy also offers manufacturers a clear planning and horizon, which allows them to plan ahead and really be in line with the overall ambitions and plans of the government. It also allows and facilitates regional harmonization while aligning with international standards, such as those used or already stipulated in China and the United States. Next slide, please. Now I'll move on. We can move on now to the presentations on appliance energy efficiency policy from country champions, and we'll kickstart with Niels sharing the European Union perspective. Thank you, Niels. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Clara and Mel, and thank you for the invitation. It's an honor to represent the EU perspective here. As was said already, appliance policies are, of course, a kind of a policy that work over the long term. And so, let's say, what I represent here, will present here, is, of course, the result of decades of work in the EU. Next slide, please. We have effectively more than 3 decades of experience with appliance policies in the EU. as early as in the 70s, there were a first attempt following the oil crisis in the 70s. There was a first attempt to adopt energy labels for appliances. It was voluntary for the member states of the European Union, so it wasn't greatly taken up. But then when the idea of a single market for the European Union came about and it was realized in the early 90s, then we had the first mandatory energy labels, the first one being for refrigerators, household refrigerators. And there we basically have the third generation of labels now. And together with the maps as well, what we call in Europe eco-design requirements, but effectively minimum energy performance requirements and requirements on other types of performances like noise. And it's been tremendous, the reduction in average consumption of the stock of refrigerators in Europe. And we have meanwhile expanded the program of maps and labels to 30 product groups roughly, covering almost half of all electricity going through, half of all electricity consumed in the EU is going through appliances that are regulated one or the other way. Next slide, please. So why have we been doing this? Well, it's really because there are multiple benefits of this, and we regularly publish so-called eco-design impact accounting reports that take stock and try to quantify the accumulated benefits of this. And the latest version has just been published, and it's estimated that in the European Union, consumer expenditure in 22 was reduced by some 89 billion euros. And that annual saving is set to increase to around 150 billion euros by 2030 as the stock of appliances changes and the benefits of the better appliances come to fruition. Just a few examples. Well, perhaps on the right side you can see the circle there, which is an illustration of where the savings occur. There's a lot in heating and cooling, also quite a lot in lighting, electronics, food, refrigeration and cooking appliances, but also industrial components. So all the benefits are not occurring in the residential sector, also quite substantial in the commercial and industrial sectors. Just a few examples. New rules that will apply as of mid next year on phones and tablets are estimated to save consumers around 20 billion euros a year by 2030 because of lower acquisition costs, because we have also set durability requirements, repairability requirements leading to longer lifetime for smartphones. Horizontal rules on off and standby mode of electricity consumption were introduced in 2008, and they have been strengthened a number of times, and the latest in 23 with effect of next year. And they are estimated to lead to 36 terawatt hours of savings by 2030, or around 8 billion euros of annual savings by then. As I mentioned, I already mentioned refrigerators, it's roughly 16 billion euros per year by 2030. And electric motors and variable speed drives, importantly, to allow the motors to operate with, let's say, in function of demand and needs. They are likewise estimated to save around 11 billion euros per year in 20. And this is consumer expenditure, but there are many other co-benefits. Next slide, please. And this is, let's say, of course, the main takeaway. This is good for consumers, but it's also good for the climate, the environment, health. We set requirements also on air pollutant emissions for when it's relevant, noise emissions, and so on. The savings, of course, help reduce the needs for investments in the energy system, and it drives manufacturers to innovate and improve their appliances over time and invest in that, and therefore also gain a competitive advantage. An important lesson from Europe is, I think, that it's important to involve industry manufacturers, importers, retailers, but also NGOs and independent experts when we design these policies and calibrate the ambition level. It's, as was also mentioned, it's important to realize that this is a kind of long haul policy that doesn't have necessarily high immediate effects. It needs to be sustained effort, and that requires sustained resources as well to develop the policies, to update or maintain them, of course, to test capacity in laboratories, understanding consumer behavior, and so on, and market surveillance and compliance. But of course, the good news is that there's such a lot of let's say, experience in this field, and that's of course why also the course is there. There's no need to start from scratch. Learning from others and reusing what's suitable in a specific national context is very reasonable to do. Even in the European Union, we don't do everything ourselves. We learn from colleagues abroad, including the US or elsewhere. And I would say a second message is to be pragmatic. Depending on your situation and so on, take one step by step, and then you can expand scope and ambition levels and so on. And finally, I would say I think this is a key importance, not least for the European Union. Try to address also other important aspects of the life cycle, because for some products, much of the energy is actually used in upstream and not during operation. For instance, computers and tablets, a lot of energy goes into production. And so things like durability, repairability, spare part requirements are very important. And so just to highlight that we launched a portal, the link is there, a portal to the brand new, it was launched last week or 2nd April, where you can find extensive information on our policies. And above that is the April database, which where all energy labeled products in Europe have to be registered, and which gives a phenomenal transparency on the efficiency levels achievable and on the market in Europe. And that's of course also something that's open to the whole world, and you can use as much as you want. It's available with the APIs and so on, and it's already used extensively for online retailing and by platforms like Google and Amazon to show the labels. Thank you for your attention.
Niels, for this European Union perspective. With this framing, we will move on to hear from Juwan Chia, the Vice Director and Associate Professor on Energy Labeling Center from the China National Institute of Standardization, SEAD, to share the China perspective. Thank you, Chia. The floor is yours.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Clara, and thanks, Mel. I'm Yujuan Xia from China National Institute of Standardization. So good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. It's my pleasure to share some perspectives based on China's practices. So in my opinion, Appliance energy efficiency policy package can bring multiple benefits by impacting on market, manufacturers, and consumers, and help policymakers to achieve national energy and climate goals. So firstly, for the market, energy efficiency standards and labeling programs can raise awareness of purchasing efficient appliances, accelerate the uptake of highly efficient equipment. According to a study by a sector association, the average awareness level of energy label in 2015 to 2017 has reached 89%. For the urban residents, the percentage is 96%. So it's higher than other similar green labels. If we take the AC market, for example, due to the new ambitious, please go back. Yeah, if we take the AC market, for example, due to the new ambitious energy efficiency standard and the labeling program, which raise various speed AC and fixed speed AC together, the market share of variable speed AC, which has more higher energy efficiency grades, increases from 60% in 2018 to 93% in 2021. And also for the manufacturers and the consumers, the more and more stringent energy efficiency standards drive the manufacturers to speed up the research and the development of energy-saving technologies and scale up its application. That's to provide consumer with affordable, efficient appliances and help them to save electricity costs. For example, the EU standards of refrigerator in China has been revised by 4 times, and the daily consumption of the refrigerator has dropped to a larger extent. And also in the EU, the same picture with new maybe. The annual electricity consumption of a refrigerator freezer has dropped to 180 kilowatt hours. And also for the government, the energy efficient policy package mobilizes product efficiency to achieve carbon reduction targets. Also take the AC, for example, from 2008 to 2023. The average efficiency in APF keeps increasing from 3.86 to 4.89, improved by nearly 30%. Next slide, please. Okay, and the energy efficient standards labeling and also some incentive program and also some maybe government procurement. They have comprehensive impact on the market. The maps helps to phase out the low efficiency products, and also the grade 2 and the grade 1 helps to promote high efficiency products. And also they provide the technical reference for incentive program, for the government procurement, and also for some income tax incentives for manufacturers. And by doing so, the overall level of the market has been increased to a larger extent. So for the lowest progress in China during the 14th 5-year plan period, 10 standards has been released, including the electric fans, fluorescent lamps, and also displays, commercial electromagnetic stoves, and also heat pumps, and so on. And also we are also developing 17 mandatory energy efficiency standards for refrigerators and for microcomputers and so on. So that's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Jia, so much for this overview of the China energy efficiency policy framework for appliances and equipment. Now we move on to the Sub-Saharan Africa perspective through our speaker today, Redley Makaliki, who is a technical lead expert in the EAP project and is also represented. Thank you. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Clara. Thank you, Melanie and IEA for inviting SACRI to share the perspectives on the appliance energy efficiency. The information I'm going to share is based on the project we are implementing together with UNIDO, which is sponsored by the Swedish government. And it's being implemented in 2 regions, the Southern African Development Community, as well as the East African Community, covering 21 member states. It's based on 4 approaches to change, which include improvement of regulatory framework, where we are developing minimum energy performance standards for various appliances that are prioritized by the member states. Then private sector support, so to bring on board private sector to implement energy efficiency projects, and we are giving incentives for them to put up demonstration projects. And then capacity building both at individual and institutional level. We are supporting member states, especially in testing, which is important as you implement the energy efficiency policies. You need to verify that the actual products that are being sold on the market do really comply to the standards that are set. And then the last one, but not the least, is on awareness raising. So from this, we have learned that the importance of energy efficiency policy relating to appliances at various levels can include at households to reduce household energy bills, which will make available, I think, additional disposable income for the family to use elsewhere. In terms of grid reliability, this will reduce on electricity shortages and blackouts. We have had the experiences, especially in the SADC region, where member states have faced deficit generation. And in countries like South Africa and Zambia, currently, I think we have some form of load shedding on a daily basis. So if we embark on energy efficiency, I think it can mitigate some of those challenges that we are facing in regards of meeting demand from the available supply. So at national level also, it will reduce the capital and loans tied up in power stations and grid upgrades and slows demand for new growth. When you implement the standards especially, it goes to consumer protection, where we'll avoid being dumping grounds for technologies that have been banned elsewhere. And then in terms of energy airports, it will reduce on the outflow of funds tied to fuel purchases, electricity imports, and also strengthen national security. Last but not the least is the aspect of, I think, protecting the environment. We are living in an era where there's climate change, and especially for those countries that are dependent on generation from fossil fuels, if we embark on energy efficiency, generally, they will reduce on the carbon footprint that that country presents. Next slide. So in terms of the mechanisms available for transforming the markets to energy efficiency, here I'm showing a graph which is showing a plot of the volume of products sold against their efficiencies. We see that the dotted line in a market that is unregulated, the volume of products sold follows a normal distribution where low numbers in terms of low efficiency products as well as low numbers in terms of higher efficiency products are sold. But the moment we introduce minimum energy performance standards, we cut off the shaded area in blue of products that are inefficient on the market and see an immediate jump in the efficient products that are being sold on the market, because at this moment, manufacturers are just complying with the standards that have been set. The next blue line indicates that if we introduce labels, which gives information to end users when they are buying products, on the performance of the products, we again pull the market to sell more efficient products. If again we introduce energy efficiency procurement guidelines, as well as other labels, such as endorsement labels, which are shown here as Energy Star, then we further push the market to sell more higher efficiency products. And in this case, I think we also benefit from the advantage that while if we implement this successively, then we can double the rate at which energy efficiency uptake is being effectively, I think, implemented both at country level as well as regional level if we have regional collaboration. Thank you. I end here for now.
Thank you so much, Makeleke, for this overview. It was really, really impressive for us to see all the good work that the Sub-Saharan Africa region is doing together with UNIDO within the ELA project. And I'm sure many of the participants also enjoyed this overview. With this, I hand over to Neha Dhingra, a senior manager at CLASP in India, to share with us the India perspective. Thank you for joining us, Neha, and the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you so much for inviting me here. It's a pleasure. All right. So in the last presentations also, we've heard that appliances have a major impact on our climate. Now, we tried to quantify this a little bit further, and then our estimates revealed that appliances are responsible for approximately 40% of energy-related CO2 emissions. And this includes both direct as well as indirect emissions. And the appliance impact is also folded into other sectors, such as industrial, commercial, and transport. So if you look at this graph, then industrial sector, basically the appliances and equipment that are used in industrial sector contribute almost 50% to the overall energy-related GHG emissions from appliances. And if we wanted to put it in perspective, then these emissions are equal to roughly the total CO2 emissions from China, Europe, and Brazil. Next slide, please. So to reduce the impact of appliances on climate, it has been proven that appliance energy efficiency is one of the most cost-effective tools. And recognizing that over 120 countries in the world have already adopted and developed SNL program, which are at different stages. So some countries have recognized the program of other countries, others have developed their own, and the programs are in different stages, such as nascent, mature, and advanced, depending on the level of advancement and the level of production that the country has. In the COP28, so just to give a little bit of a global perspective, like why appliance energy efficiency is so important, in COP28 in December, countries signed up for doubling energy efficiency by 2030 in first ever global stocktake report. And standards and labeling is one of the key contributors to doubling energy efficiency. Now, I wanted to give a little bit of spotlight on India perspective. So in India, 24% of contribution to a residential energy consumption is from the residential sector. And if we look at the amount of savings that this SNL program has attributed to for India, it's around 60%. So out of all the energy efficiency savings that India has achieved, 60% of that has been contributed by the standards and labeling program if we look at the last 5-year period. And associated monetary saving, it's around $15.6 billion. So that's huge. So this is the kind of monetary as well as emission saving that the program can result in, and hence it's really important to me. Can we move on to the next slide, please? Thank you. So some of the key stakeholders for the program are, of course, policymakers, businesses, and consumers. If we were to just summarize everything that all of us have said, then for policymakers, the key benefits include cost savings for the country. The program also helps in meeting national climate change goals. It helps addressing net zero targets that each country has, and it reduces peak electricity demands, and overall it provides energy security to the country and the world at large. For consumers, it results in reduced electricity bills because if we are using efficient appliances, then the electricity consumption gets reduced. And then it provides access to affordable, efficient appliances. And for businesses, it provides competitive advantage. It provides opportunity for technological innovation. It removes trade market barriers for trade if products were to be sold from one country to another, and it also provides job creation opportunities. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Neha, for that overview, particularly for coming back to the big picture aspects of this, which I want to talk about a bit more now. And thanks to everybody for their interventions as well. So as Neha mentioned, all governments got together late last year and agreed to the concept of working together to double the rate of improvement of energy efficiency between now and 2030. So, of course, appliance policy, as we've seen, is one of the more successful policy measures that governments can endorse and can continually improve upon, even if they're already doing well. One of the things we see when we need to have near-term action, so 2030 is not far away, is one of the most practical things to do is do more of what you're already doing rather than try and come up with new policies completely. So ratcheting up standards, introducing incentives for appliances, those sorts of things where you're basing this on existing policy infrastructure. That's one of the quickest ways and most effective ways of getting new savings. But in the context of doubling, I don't know, is Neil still with us or has he had to drop out?
I'm here.
You're here. No. So Niels, could I just start with you and just ask you, in the concept of the need to double the rate of improvement of energy efficiency, how do you see the Commission's appliance standards and appliance energy efficiency policies contributing to that doubling? How important are they going to be as part of your approach?
I think they're gonna, I mean, focus is very much now on delivery. I would say in the European Union in the last 5 years, we had political mandate of, let's say, at the federal EU level, where I work in the executive, focused a lot on putting in place a legislative framework to enable us to meet ambitious energy and climate policy goals in 2030 and get us on the path towards net zero in 2050. And we now have this quite comprehensive framework agreed. Just last week, one of the last pieces fell into place, a Build Energy Performance in Buildings Directive, very important as well. And so I think there's a common sense now that the focus needs to turn to delivery and implementation. And on specifically on appliance standards and programs, we have actually, as part of this last mandate, also reviewed our legal basis for that we used to do MEPs on. So the Eco-Design Directive was revised. And so now we have a very sound basis for delivering, continuing to deliver. And we have very ambitious program in the next 2 years to revise a lot of our existing maps and labels so that they get up to speed with markets and technologies and they deliver even more. And I think it's funny, we saw the refrigeration here was one of the first products we had started with in the Union. And just 2 years ago, as a little anecdote, I bought the best fridge I could. I renovated my kitchen. I bought the best fridge I could find on the market via our database on labeled products. It was a B labeled. It was a B labeled fridge, and it was 116 kilowatt hours, so beating the average now. Now, actually, the A category is full of products now, just 2 years on. So although we've been regulating fridges for decades, there is still improvements to come. And we're going to try to harvest a lot of those savings, of course. And then, as I said, we're also going to focus increasingly on harvesting the savings in the production phase of products and making sure that appliances last longer, because this is very popular to consumers, that we make their appliances last longer and make them repairable, because that saves a lot as well. At least for some types of appliances, you could say the low-hanging fruits have perhaps been captured in Europe at least, and there's a lot. The relative importance of the other cycles of other phases of the life cycle of the product, of course, increase. But I'm sure this is going to take up an increased, let's say, importance in the EU, because focus is so much on delivery and showing actual value for consumers.
Thanks, Niels. That's really enlightening, and I think the work that the Commission is doing on the longevity and the repairability of appliances is extremely important, and I hope it will be something that the rest of the world follows. So great developments there. I mean, people do talk about the embodied energy, of course, in appliances, and in most of the traditional appliances, they use so much more in use than in manufacture that it's not such an issue. But as you say, as we go towards the margins of the most efficient products we can find, it becomes more significant. So really important to make those other services available to consumers. So maybe we can move on to Yuan Xia from from Sinis and ask about China's ambitions for net zero by 2060, if I'm not wrong. How do you think appliance policy can help make that happen by doing things more quickly? If you wouldn't mind, if you're still with us. Perhaps not. Maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, you are. Okay, I've got you now. Thank you.
Open. In China, we have developed energy efficiency standards, maybe for 67 products, maybe accounting for 80% of building energy consumption, and also maybe more than 70% of industry consumption. So we think maybe so during increased appliance energy efficiency is also very important to reach the carbon peaking and carbon neutrality goals. So during the 14th 5-year plan period, this means 2021 to 2025. There are still 2 years left. The NDRC and will speed up the review of the energy efficiency standards. As I have said, we have published 10 standards, and also there is still 17 standards under development. And also we have planned to develop standards maybe for electric vehicle charging stations, the servers, the storage devices, and some new appliances to deeply explore the energy saving potential. So, and this year the NDRC has also published a document about the top round level of 43 products to guiding the industry progress and to also to guide the standards review. So maybe that's the work we have been doing.
Thank you. And of course, we all watch what China's doing in this space because it's going to impact on us all, because you're one of the major suppliers of product around the world. And I think that one of the things that's always been really amazing to the rest of the world is the breadth of your program, the number of products that you cover, and the fact that you have very much a routine of revising and reviewing standards. And you're looking at what's going on around the world. 20 years ago, it was much more of an inward-looking program. But now, of course, you're looking at a collaboration with international standards processes and making sure this is a really global process. So it's great to see that. Maybe I can turn to India and to Nihar. Yeah, in this, India put a lot of emphasis on the doubling of energy efficiency through its G20 presidency last year. How do you think the appliance programs can contribute to that aspiration?
I think the appliance program will play a very critical role in meeting that target. As I was sharing the impact that is associated with the program, it's huge. And now Bureau of Energy Efficiency is also putting in even more effort in kind of intensifying both the policy development as well as its implementation through kind of ensuring compliance at the state level. So that is one. And second is that, we are planning to work to kind of develop a roadmap for appliance energy efficiency in particular to help India meet the goal of doubling energy efficiency. So the roadmap will lay out some of the key appliances, the key sectors, and how and what needs to be done for each of those appliances if we were to keep on track of the path of doubling energy efficiency. And we're hoping to get that some of that analysis out by the end of the year. I think that would kind of pave the way and kind of show the light in terms of how the targets need to be met. And first of all, even before they need to be met, first of all, defining the target for each of the appliances that we were to develop.
Of course, yeah. Thank you. Because again, India is another market to watch. What happens there influences everybody. I mean, I'm a firm believer that we wouldn't have high quality LED lighting in all of our homes in Europe had India not as quickly as we have. Had India not chosen to really, take this problem on very, very early on and show the rest of the world how to do it. So thank you. That's really interesting. So of course, everybody, every continent, every region has its own priorities. But I'd like to turn to Africa and to Redley and ask, I mean, we used to try and talk about energy efficiency in the African region, and people used to say, oh, don't bother, we haven't got enough, efficiency, a rich country's problem. But we, of course, wanted to kind of persuade people that if energy was used efficiently from the start, then more people could have access to modern energy services. How do you think that's playing out? Is that working? Is there more that we should be doing? And how does appliance policy contribute to that process? That's if you're still with us, Redley.
Sorry, my mic was on mute. Thank you so much for that question. Yes, I'll start with the SADC perspective. I think around 2007, 2008, utilities predicted the deficit in generation, and working through the Southern African Powerful Demand Side Management Working Group, they tasked, I think, member state utilities to implement energy efficiency programs which would mitigate this deficit in generation so that they match the supply and demand. And it included the rollout, in some cases for free, of exchange of incandescent bulbs with efficient either LED or CFLs. I think a number of countries in the SADC region implemented that program, and some are still implementing. There was also, I think, energy switching in terms of water heating, switching from electric geysers as well as going to solar water heaters. And Zimbabwe is one of the countries that has also instituted the law where new construction in terms of domestic housing needs to move away from electric geysers to solar water heaters, and then others like power factor correction for the industry. And also the SADC energy ministers with this, I think, challenge made a decree that all member states should phase out inefficient lighting, targeting incandescent by 2019. But we saw that only 2 or 3 countries, I think, instituted statutory instruments to do this ban. So the coming on board of the ELA projects, the energy efficient lighting and appliances projects, brought a systematic approach, I think, for member states to embrace the implementation of energy efficiency so that the savings that could be made can go towards connecting either new customers on board or just being able to mitigate the deficits that the utilities were meeting in terms of not matching the demand and the supply. So the ELA project, like I mentioned in my presentation, is looking at 4 aspects. One of them is improving the regulations. So far, we have developed minimum energy performance standards for lighting, as well as for cooling appliances, which involve refrigerators and air conditioners. The approach is to harmonize these standards within the region so that we can reduce the barriers to trade, as well as reduce in terms of expenditure, in terms of compliance efforts, if the member states' national standard bodies are collaborating. So far, 5 countries have adopted these maps for lighting at national level. That includes the DRC, Mozambique, Eswatini, Namibia, and South Africa. And today, I think South Africa, tomorrow, there will be conclusion of a stakeholder meeting with the industry association because now these MEPs for lighting will be made mandatory. For MEPs for cooling appliances, which involve refrigerators and air conditioners, Zimbabwe has been one of the early mover countries to adopt this at national level. And then 6 other countries, so 5 other countries are being supported to do stakeholder consultation so that they are also adopted at national level, which include Namibia again, Botswana, South Africa itself, Zimbabwe, as well as Seychelles. Further on the program, I think as we implement these policy packages, focusing on regulation, information to the end users as well as manufacturers as incentives, there's also an aspect of capacity building that is required, which is very important, especially in forms of testing for the member states, because when we are doing this project, we have noticed that there's lack of testing capacity within the 2 regions, here and EAC and SADC. So we have supported the member states, one, for the lighting, by purchasing a portable lighting test equipment, which has been made available to each of the 21 member states on the project. And then we have selected 3 countries to further capacitate them with additional equipment, which will be stationary now at the National Standards Body laboratories. And these will be centers of excellence, and they'll be accessible by the other member states within the region, so that in case a member state is unable to test a particular product, they can reference that product to this test center of excellence within the region. So, and also by encouraging this mutual collaboration, we'll be reducing in terms of the compliance efforts that are required to implement these energy efficiency policies that we're developing under the project. So we have also seen member states, I think, embracing this by producing dedicated instruments such as energy efficiency strategy and action plans to set targets so that by 2030, they meet the energy efficiency targets that they have set within these policies.
Thank you, Redley. And that is it actually leads on to what I was going to ask everybody else very briefly next, but you've covered it very well. The importance of international collaboration. I think the ELA project is one of the most outstanding examples out there of how international collaboration can help countries, how it can help things happen more quickly, more cost effectively. You know, the whole idea of sharing resources and having test labs, for example, that have mutual recognition agreements across regions so they can be used by anybody. I mean, these are all things that we need to see happening in other regions, and it's great to see Africa taking a lead in this collaborative effort. So I just want to go to a couple of our other speakers and very quickly, just in less than a minute. Niels, what do you see the benefits of international collaboration are for appliance policy?
I think it's very much linked to the let's say the cost and the difficulty of standardization, but also, of course, of facilitating international trade. Even for a region like Europe, I can tell you, and even the richer member states in Europe find it difficult to have the expertise required to have test labs for all the products we cover. And there they call upon the European Union, so the federal level, to have test labs and so on, or they share it a bit among each other. So even amongst the kind of the advanced regions that have had these programs for decades, it's a challenge. And so if we can share this challenge better, that's great. And to give you an example, we are right now reviewing our standards for external power supplies and also for electronic displays, and we are very much looking at what the US is doing in this field, lending their test results and so on, and looking at their analysis. And these are, of course, globally traded products. So if we can align, this is better for everybody, including for industry and consumers, because it takes the cost of compliance down.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. Yeah, they're exactly the sorts of benefits we hoped you'd mention. And maybe I could just have the last word, ask Juyen to have the last word in terms of this international collaborative approach. how do you think China is benefiting from that?
Sorry, can you repeat your question?
So how is China benefiting from international collaboration on appliance energy efficiency policy?
Oh yeah. The first thing I think maybe for a big producer of appliance in the world, I think maybe if there is a national or regional harmonization, I think it can prevent inefficient products phased out by one country from flowing into other countries. So maybe we can achieve we can achieve more aggressive carbon goals together. And also maybe for us, it can reduce the cost of testing and certification, reduces the resources waste. Yeah.
I think they're great answers. Thank you, Yuan. And they're exactly what this conversation is about and what this course is about. So we've produced this appliance energy efficiency course so that people can share experience from around the world. And we don't have to start from scratch. We will, of course, update it as experience develops. And we hope that everybody can use it to maybe it's a place where policies are already advanced, but there are new staff, or it's a place where policies in this area are new. Everybody needs to learn more from it. So hopefully this is a multi-purpose course that will help speed up the application of effective appliance energy efficiency policies. And with that, I'd like to thank our speakers. I'd like to thank the team at the IEA for producing the course and for producing the webinar. And I hope people who do undertake the course find it useful and enjoyable. But please do give us feedback. Let us know how you think it could be improved, and we will continually update it. Thank you very much indeed, and have a great day.
Thank you.